wherever it may be. I want to salute you all, right? You know, tonight we're gonna be talking with our founder, co-founder, elder, Baba Abdul Olugbala Secure. You know, who's gonna lace us up on the prison movement, its significance, the importance, some of the martyrs, some of the unsung heroes, and so forth, so on. Hold on, I think this is him. I'm gonna open this line up. I think this is him right here. Jumbo Conrad, that's you?
Yeah, Jumbo, yes, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man.
This number,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I already know, man. How you doing tonight, Conrad?
Can't stop, won't stop. You know that.
Yeah, man.
How you doing,
I'm doing well, man. You know, I'm gonna share one fact with the people right quick about you, man, that they might not know, right? You know, you know, many times people speak about, you know, a person's spirit of resistance, a spirit of inspiration, right? But to those who don't know, you have been known to be the spirit of Conrad George. You know, you are known to be that spirit, right? I just wanted to share that with the people, man, so they can know exactly what they're talking about, who's talking, what's going on. I just want to share that experience, man.
Man. Now, one thing I do want to say, I tell people like this. I remember I was asked before. No, matter of fact, it was a statement somebody made that it was only one Conrad George, and that was it. There's no more, right? And one of the brothers asked me, what was said, is it true? I said, no. George was only the one that was put out in the limelight. There was many comrades on the same level of Comrade George. And those who was around that time will tell you that. They will attest to that. Just that Comrade George, when he was accused of killing that pig, the Solidarity Brothers gave light to Comrade George, a platform. And then goes to the potential George Jackson. There are many brothers and sisters throughout this country in prison that have that same potential. You know, so what I try to do is correct people, because they say, well, Comrade George, there's never been another Comrade George, and that's not true. That is a subjective and emotional position. You see what I'm saying? Comrade George, like Comrade Katari, W. Nolan, they all set a standard. There's no different when you look at Robert Williams, Nat Turner, Demar Vesey, David Walker, Martin Lane. They set a standard. You know what I'm saying? A standard that Comrade George built on. You see what I'm saying? So they set standards. That means we have to go beyond that standard. Because if you go under that standard, you have not accomplished nothing. We have made no significant gains then. There's no limit in our fight for liberation. There's no limit in becoming a revolutionary guerrilla or freedom fighter. You know? So I'm saying each generation will have a George, a Bunchy, a W, a Katari, a Nat Turner, Marcus Garvey, even a Martin Luther King. Each generation will have there, based on those concrete conditions. You know? So we all have that spirit of Katari in us. We all have that spirit of George and Bunchy and Asada. You know, we all have that spirit in us. It's just the journey toward discovering that spirit. And a lot of times we don't discover unless something drastic happens and it forces us to go inside ourselves and discover our true self, and, you know, you become that person, you know? So it's in all of us.
Yeah. No doubt, man. You know, no doubt, man. You know, the work is seen and heard everywhere about how you manifest it, what you materialize, what you really put back into it, right? You know, the spirit of inspiration all around us, and the spirit of resistance as well, right? You know, I understand that it's quote unquote New African History Month, Black History Month, right? You know, they want to give people a little special treat by the history, the origin, the California prison movement, the Black prison movement, how they evolved. Why was it created? What condition made it come into existence? Who are some of the unsung heroes? What are some of the sacrifices? How did it influence other places? And how to give birth to Black August and so forth and so on, right?
Yeah.
So the base of the situation, man. So you know, I just want to ask you, how did the California prison movement evolve? How did it develop? What was the origin of it? What took place to create it?
Yeah, let me say this here first. you had activities taking place all over the country as it relates to our New African prison brothers and sisters, right? So it didn't start in California. It was activity taking place throughout the United States within these dungeons, right? The difference was California became the nuclear force behind that movement, right? Now, if you go back to the 50s, again, see, people don't understand that the movement in California started back in the 50s. You know, like with Comrade Death Row Jeff and Ulysses Daniels and others, you know. The Nation of Islam, the original Nation of Islam, you know, they was one of the first organized force before the Black Panthers entered the prison system. They were one of the first organized force that militantly challenged the system. They were the first one to say, each time you harm our people, we're going to respond in kind. The Nation of Islam was the first one. The Nation of Islam was the first one that exposed black nationalism to the people, even before the Panthers started entering the prison system, right? So you had, in the late 50s and 60s, early 60s, you had activity taking place. You know, members from the Lost and Found Nation of Islam were some of the forefront activists involved in that, from California to New York, right? Now, what changed that dynamic was when the Panthers came into play. So a lot of brothers and sisters that was coming to prison, they brought a political dynamic to the forefront, an ideological perspective to the forefront, right? A bunch of you had influence over a lot of brothers and sisters in these prisons, right? So the thing is, when the Panthers came into prison, they brought that ideology, that political structure and formation, you know, because prior to that, it was purely militant. It was purely militant, led by the Lost and Found Nation of Islam. At the time, the Black Nation of Islam. It was purely militant. You know, it was political, but purely militant without an ideological base, right? But when the Panthers came into play, they brought the ideological formation into play, right? Now, if we look at, by that time, you already had different groups evolving now. Before the Panthers came into play, you had different groups evolving, but most of them were straight militant. You know, the Black Guerrillas, the Black Family, the Black Vanguards, the Black Mob. Most of these groups was militant. They collectively made a decision at that time. So this is the military aspect of it. They collectively made a decision at that time that for every time the racist, neo-Nazi stab or hurt a New African, we're going to respond in kind. Every time a racist pig or pig in general hurt a New African prisoner, we're going to respond in kind. So it was primarily military more than political. So when the formations start to form under the guidance of the Black Panther ideology or the introduction of Black Revolution nationalism at that time at the infant stage, the activities became more political. That's when you have more individuals now, New Africans, organizing against conditions, trying to organize and bring brothers together on these yards like in San Quentin, Soledad, Tracy, and Folsom. Now it became more political. Many of them began to reach out to different political organizations. Being that the Panthers had chapters in California prison system, it gave the movement, and at that time it was the Black prison movement. It wasn't the prison movement, it was the Black prison movement, right? So it gave them the platform to reach out to these various formations and lawyers. It provided that, right? And that's what people understand. Before George became a Panther, he was a Black guerrilla and a Black family, and he was active already in the struggle, both militarily and politically. So certain events that New African prison at that time was able to build these racial coalitions with even these neo-Nazis, you know, like issues concerning conditions, food, health, education. They was able to, you know, bring these different races together because once you find an issue that is in all of our best interests, it's easy to bring these different groups into play, right? But again, in California, it was extremely racist, and the violent aspect was very much a part of California. But like I was saying, those are some of the conditions, like I said, when you go back to the 60s, early 70s, we're talking about Tony Gibson, William Christmas, James McClain, Comrade George, Comrade Katara, the Black Dragon, Death Row Jeff, Ulysses Daniels, I mean, Howard Toll, and his list is endless, and a lot of people don't know, like Howard Toll, for example. Many don't even know who Howard Toll is, but he was a Black guerrilla. He was one of our comrades, but he's also the founder of the Seminole Liberation Army. He's the one who started SLA in San Quentin and gave Q the instructions on how to mobilize this front. Then Q was the leader, really was the only new African, and he was also a black guerrilla of the SLA. And the motivation behind that was to develop a whole entire white cadre that have the ability to mobilize and move in those particular communities and areas, especially at that time. You know, so that's significant with regards to Howard told history, but he's also his contribution towards organizing in prison, as well as his contribution to building the Black Guerrilla movement.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot. I mean, there's a whole lot of brothers that people just don't know. You know, like Notorious Tomb. I mean, people, and this is why this is important, because people have this emotional, romanticizing thing with Comrade George, and Comrade George straight out tell you. I mean, if you read his books and materials, he's speaking about the same brothers that's standing and sitting around him. The same brothers like W.L. Nolan. He's the one that influenced Comrade George. When Comrade George first came to prison, his first 5-6 years, he was a thug gangster. W.L. and Howard told Big Jenkins were already active in the movement. They were already active politically. You see what I'm saying? So I'm saying you have a lot of individuals, you know, and that's why those of us who know the truth, we don't isolate the Comrade George. Comrade George is at the forefront, no question about it. Comrade George is the ultimate, no question about it. But also Qatari, also Tony Gibson, Howard Toe, William Christmas, James McClain, W.L. Nolan. You know, that's why we say W.L. Nolan in our time. We said W.L. Nolan, lay the line in our time. You know what I'm saying? Because he was one of the most prominent figures at that time. You know, he was one of the most prominent revolutionary figures at that time. He's the one that influenced Comrade George. And that's why when people read George's prison letters and read the first paragraph in Blood in My Eyes, when Comrade George said, I then met the Black Guerrillas, Big Jake, Tony Gibson, William Christmas, and others. You see what I'm saying? These individuals were already active in the movement from a political standpoint and military standpoint. That struggle evolved, like I say, because the same thing that was taking place in California was taking place in many other different states. So it's like, it's not so much it started in California, because the same conditions which compelled the California brothers to come together and fight against depression is the same condition that exists in all these other states that compel them to do the same thing. It's just with California, it's more organized, more structured, and then the different figures, leaders in California within the prison and slave complex made California, and then you had these different, like Berkeley, the college campus at Berkeley, which housed a lot of these radical students and teachers. You had radical lawyers down here. Those are the perfect conditions in California that made California at the forefront of this movement, right? And I'm going to be honest with you, when the black prison movement was no longer and was just becoming the prison rights movement, it lost its sting. It lost everything, because if you go back to the 60s, 70s, and some parts of the early 80s, it was the political conscious new African prisoners at the forefront dictating the movement. It wasn't until like maybe 30 years ago where the movement now is being dictated by white activists on the streets. Don't get me wrong, they did their part, we applaud them, all that, but that's where the struggle went wrong at. You know, because it is a racial issue, and it's hard to address that racial issue when you have those on the street that don't understand that dynamic. You know, so I say about middle 80s, early 80s, the black prison rights movement it was history, you know, because of the dynamic that was on the ground within these prisons, because you had a major race war taking place. And it's not like, like in many other states, they talk about riots, right? I'm not talking about riots. I'm talking about every time the door popped, there was an issue. You know, there was a conflict. And our collective was serious about subduing this racial violence, letting them know that under no circumstance will you spill out blood and we're not going to respond. But and that was very much part of the movement in California.
Oh, okay. Pardon, I have a question. You know, you said it died out basically around in the 80s, right? What type of significance did the shoe play in this dying out? What did the shoe play in the security house? What did it play in the significance dying out? What kind of role did the shoe play in that?
Okay, now here's two issues here, right? not only did what it was the system. They was able to identify the most political prisoners, which was New Africans. There have always been New African prisoners from California to New York. They was able to identify the New African Revolutionary Nationalist activists. Once they identified them, they placed them in isolation. That facilitated the demise of the Black prison rights movement. It facilitates the demise of the prison movement, period, in California. Because those who were more active and most active in this movement were now locked up in isolation. That's the road SHU, which was a security housing unit, which is isolation / solitary confinement. Because within the SHU, you have different units. You have isolation units, you have dungeons. All that right there was utilized as a tool to destroy the Black prison rights movement, and it did. But also in the SHU, it revived the movement. It was no longer the Black prison rights movement, but it did revive the prison rights movement in California, especially within the SHU unit at Pelican Bay State Prison and Corcoran State Prison. So that, because most of the brothers and other prisoners that was housed in those two prisons are some of the same brothers that was involved in the movement in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, like myself. So we was able to stimulate that movement because of the condition that exists at Pelican Bay and Corcoran. So the SHU also served as a platform to revisit that and to rebuild the movement, you know, and make it more inclusive. So that's the role the SHU played.
Okay. Okay. That's very interesting, man. You know, especially in regards to like brothers such as yourself was in the SHU 30, 40 years or so, and still made a way to reach the people through writing, through journaling, through art, you know, and do other ways and other methods to get in touch with the people, man, to keep your humaneness together, you know, to keep the spirit of that movement alive and in resistance, right? It's a beautiful thing, man. Even right now, we on Georgia University Radio, which Georgia University was created in the prison system. You know what I'm saying, by yourself and others, you know, and it just showed the effort and the determination of the work being presented and how it actually affect people today. You know, especially with Georgia University Radio been in existence for 8 years now. It basically become a staple in the lives of many people that listen to it, many people that share the information, many people that get a political education on Georgia University Radio, you know, and other things like that, right? So it's very significant, man. You know, it just we got to pay homage when things are all around us, you know, just pay respect when things are around and actually support it as well, you know.
See, one thing people need to understand, when they did lock us up in isolation, it didn't stop the struggle. It didn't stop the revolution. Being guerrillas and revolutionaries, we have to adapt. We have to adapt to these new environments and new conditions. It never stopped us. So when we did come to the SHU, we continued to organize. We continued to mobilize. We continued to write, reach out. So I'm saying, and they did everything in their power to isolate us. Like within California, I mean, the word New African became illegal. To say New African, you was reduced to a gang to justify your long-term isolation. To say New African Independence Movement, all those key phrases within our ideology was reduced to a crime. And then, give you an example. Check this out, they did this. And you have people to this day still believe this crap. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, the New African guerrillas, they would walk by your cell and slide a Black history book under your door as a form of recruitment. Never happened. And a lot of these people that repeat that don't have a clue that the pig started that rumor. A lot of people don't have a clue that the pig started that rumor back in the late 70s. And they're still repeating that. But one of the things they don't understand, it was used as a method and tactic to avoid New African prisoners to pick up a history book. Because those in charge of this construct, they want you to understand that if you pick up that history book, we're going to reduce you to a gang and we're going to lock you up just like we locked them Black guerrillas up. And a lot of brothers wouldn't touch a history book because they believe that, because it was enforced. They find certain history books in your cell, they lock you up and label you a Black guerrilla and justify long-term isolation, even though you wasn't a Black guerrilla. But they criminalized Black history. So, I mean, you have to look at all the things that were taking place at that time. I mean, right now, the reflection of how effective they was in that process, because right now the prison movement is pretty non-existent. You know, you have individuals who continue to fight, but as far as the movement, it's non-existent, really. You know, it's sad, and it's not nowhere near being revitalized. So now you have the drugs introduced. I mean, hard drugs. I mean, and that's across the board. Even if you look at Alabama, you would think what was going on in Alabama would stimulate and revive the prison movement in Alabama, but look, it didn't. You had a lot of people on the street paying lip service. Then you have those on the inside really ain't doing nothing. So I mean, it's hard right now in terms of prison rights activism within the prison system, from a collective standpoint, an organized standpoint. You have these pockets and you have these specific moments, but as far as like it was in the 60s, 70s, early 80s, I don't see it anytime soon, you know, because the dynamics in these prisons now is totally changed. The demographics, you have all these new things in play now that you didn't have at the time when the movement started and when the movement had its strength. You know, you had more politically conscious prisoners, more politically active prisoners at the time. The New African prison population is more political at the time. Right now, nah. So you have to change. You have to, and that's one of the things we did where, okay, we in isolation. And where we was in isolation, they had no one around us. It was just New African Revolutionary Masters. That's it. So one of the things we started doing, we have to focus on the streets. We continue our service among each other, study, exercise, challenge one another, but also reach out to the streets. So that's part of the New African Revolutionary Nationalists, to build the revolution, to reach out to our community, which is our power base, to organize the community. And they was making every effort to stop. Just like every time we wrote to the street, and you know this already, every time we wrote anything to the street that was political in nature, they confiscated, talking about we involved in gang activity. Every time I talk about the George Jackson University, they booked me every time. They banned me from corresponding with many people because of George Jackson University. They confiscated all my letter going to the streets and coming in. And then they just stopped me completely from writing because they was trying to undermine the George Jackson University. But then they came up with this strategy, okay, the George Jackson University is really a front for the black brother family. And they spread that propaganda. And it was effective. You know, but that's part of the struggle. They're going to do everything in their power to neutralize the revolution. They're supposed to. Just like we're going to do everything in our power to neutralize them. And one thing I think is important that people understand is that the revolution did not stop at the prison gate. The same fight you're fighting out there, we're fighting in here. The same forces of fascism that are responsible for our oppression and injustice out there is also responsible for the manifestation of these prisons of the slave complex. The same force. The revolution does not stop at the prison gate. It continues into the prison gate. You know, just like out there. It's not that, you know, the majority of people that's involved in struggle, I mean, it outweighs those who are not. Same way in here. There's a small minority that's actively involved in the struggle. But it's like that out there as well. So the same socio-political dynamics that you're dealing with out there, we have to confront and deal in here. Now, they ain't going to find too many people that's receptive. But you have to continue to fight. You have to find things. You know, you have to find ways to get them involved because these conditions affect all of us. And oftentimes, prisoners won't respond to certain things until it affects them directly. That's why we were able to bring other races involved in the movement to shut down the solitary confinement units because that affected every race. You know, so it wasn't that hard. I mean, to forget all the bloodshed that took place in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and early parts of the middle 90s, that was the hardest part. But once they understand that we had a common goal here, the only way they're going to let us out in isolation, we're going to have to stop this war, to stop this conflict. The only way we're going to effectively make any type of changes, we're going to have to stop this conflict because they was using that very conflict to justify long-term isolation, to justify restricting us to various things. They was using that conflict. If we remove the conflict, they no longer have that legal justification. So once we remove that conflict from the table, everything else became, you know, it's like the decks of cards just start falling, you know. And like with us, as far as New African Revolutionary Nationalists, they criminalized our politics because they couldn't attach any type of criminal activities to us. So what they did, they made our politics, they made black history a crime, you know. But that's part of the prison struggle. The same thing that happened with us happened with the comrades in the 60s, the late 50s, and the 70s. The same exact thing. They was being booked and put in isolation because of their political beliefs and ideas for educating other new African prisoners, you know? So when you look at the prison rights movement, it's not just a movement towards eradicating the ills that exist in this industrial slave complex, but also fighting for one's beliefs to teach and educate our brothers and sisters in prison. So it's a constant contradiction, you know? Because you can go to certain places, you talk about new African history, they look at you like you lost your goddamn mind. You know, you go to certain places, you got prisoners say, man, I'm not new African, I'm not black, I'm American. They more men, they don't realize they get on this. So these are different dynamics that most people don't even have a clue to. Most of the brothers in prison are American. They have no problem with America.
Right, and exactly about that. You know, that same condition has really spawned our into the web with the critical race theory aspect, taking away all the history book, new African history out of the school system, and you know, so forth and so on. Right, you know, that same effect been that same method had been initiated out here as well. You know, to deter people regarding knowing about themselves and giving them some kind of political power, economic power, educational power as well. You know. So it's a very interesting thing that you're saying in regard to what's going on. You know, one thing I all realize that the prison movement is just an extension of the overall movement. It just in different locations. It's the same exact thing in different circumstances, right? That's just the way I see things, right? A lot of times people don't see it like that, you know.
And look what happened when they come out with this so-called critical theory thing, right? Critical race theory. We was already concerned with that inside the prison walls. Exactly. And we exposed it. It's not, I mean, it's all documented. We was getting penalized and punished for having black history books. They refused to let us out of prison and out of solitary confinement because we was teaching and preaching black history. And people out there knew about it, but did not respond. Society had an opportunity, I'm talking about our communities had an opportunity to get involved because they knew what was taking place in California. Because at some point, it started spreading everywhere now, where the Bayview newspaper became a terrorist newspaper. And they was banning the Bayview newspaper. They started banning George. They banned my books in other states. But it started right here on a collective level, and no one responded. And here we are 20, 30 years later, they passing laws in the state of Florida to ban black history, to ban our history, our story from the school system. But yet, look at what we're doing now in Florida. We still engage in their history that we know is a goddamn lie.
Yeah.
They say that our history, our story had no educational value whatsoever. And there's a lot of misconceptions and bankrupt information within our story. But your history, we know for a fact is corrupt. There's a bunch of lies. Especially when you start talking about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln and all these other clowns. We know for a fact that's a lie, but you teach that shit to our kids. And that should be our position with regard to that. Our kids should be learning history in these schools. Because that white history is not our history. That's a racist history.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying is how we respond to certain things, right? And people don't understand. One thing we always said that when we, very active in the prison rights movement down here is that 85% of the people in this is going back to the streets. We can determine how they re-enter the community if we had the community support. You can't sit here and snibble and cry and complain about they letting these brothers and sisters out with no education, no training, no support. It's not the government's responsibility, it's yours. The government designed this construct to economically exploit, to neutralize, to serve as a form of governmental-sponsored terrorism, to terrorize our people into submission while making money doing it. They're not going to give you a solution to fix it. We are responsible for every brother and sister that come out from prison gates. We are responsible for them, not the government. So if you're not making the effort to participate in that process, you can't complain about a brother or sister getting out of prison doing something stupid. Because it's our responsibility. It's on us what we do, and that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, work is very important, man. Very significant, man. Well, as maintaining communication, you know, because you think about it with things you've been saying, you know, and how the way to neutralize things, it start the communication. People who are politically conscious and politically aware, they start the communication. You know, basically like the old tactic of basically the old tactic of a prisoner of war tactic. You take you get out the prisoner of war, you get the person who considered the head person or the spokesperson, neutralize the individual. There's no movement anymore. You know, they're the same strategy we're doing.
And again, and I remember this was about a couple of days ago when one of the comrades, he's from another formation, but he's a comrade, right? He said, man, why you always focus on us and attacking us? I said, who else am I focused on? They doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. I'm going to sit here and wait 30 minutes, an hour. Oh, they racist, man. They fascist. Look what they're doing. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're the enemy of our people. The enemy that's in our way for true liberation. We know this already. So why am I talking about that? I'm going to talk about us because their success and failure depends on what we do. It's no different when you look at what's going on the floor with the critical race theory. Their success depends on what we do. And what we're doing right now, not just in the state of Florida, but everywhere else, it's going to pass in many other different states. You watch, because we ain't really doing nothing that is effective. For example, I suggested a sister not too long ago, let's organize a movement getting our kids out of their history class. And if they want to challenge us on that, or you don't want to challenge us on that, we can prove you're alive. We can prove that Abraham Lincoln was a white supremacist, Thomas Jefferson was a white supremacist, and others. We can prove your history is a damn lie. We can prove that. It's documented. And that's what you do. You got to get to the point where they have no place of return. They have no legitimate ground to challenge our story when they themselves is teaching a bunch of lies. Our story is true. But we're not doing nothing to really challenge them on that. Because what's being done now, it hasn't stopped. Even in the middle of this so-called protest they're doing now, they went after the college, they went after the black student unions, and they went after the black Department of Education at these different colleges now. It started with the junior high and high school and elementary. Now, they're going after the college campuses now. And I'm just saying, man, and it started right here in these prisons. And that's why we started the Restitution Now campaign. The Restitution Now campaign, that's exactly what it's about. These clowns held us in solitary confinement from 10 to 50 years, solely because of our political ideas and beliefs. I'll give you another example. In 2007, I was scheduled to be released from solitary confinement. These special agents, SSU, ISU, OCS, all of them came and raided the cell. They confiscated material from the Black Liberation Army, Black Panther Party. They confiscated my books, Malcolm Speaks, George Jackson, that I bought. All these books I bought, they came through them. They handed it to me and gave it to me. They took like 4 or 5 books from me, Kwame Nkrumah. They took all these books and all this literature and used that to justify keeping me in isolation for 7.5 more years, which became a total of 32 years and 9 months. So, and that's not me. Yeah, with me and my comrades. But again, a lot of people out there don't get it. That's why we started the restitution campaign now, because not only they held us in solitary confinement illegally, in California, you cannot get a parole date while you're in solitary confinement. They knew that. So if you kept us in solitary confinement illegally, you denied us that opportunity to get a parole date, you have committed a crime, because you know damn well you have us in these holes illegally, but they also know that we can't get no date. That's another way how they prevent us from getting out. We're not for this process. The other brothers, as you know already, we don't need to say their names, that just got out, and when Ben got out. These comrades, the last 3 years, the comrades that got out, done from 46 years to 54 years. Many of them had 20 years, 30 years. Yeah, many of them had 20, 30 years using their free time in. Was not accused of anything. The last time they was accused of something was either in the 60s, 70s, or early 80s. Clean time. But they couldn't get out because they was illegally held in solitary confinement.
Yeah, because of their political beliefs, man. Just because you believe that you're a new African, you know, it was a cultural and a cultural identity, man, a political identity. You're a new African, which is historical. That's a historical identity. Because even before the New African Independent Movement was created, during the 50s, during the mid and late 50s in Africa, all the countries that were getting liberated were calling themselves New Africans. You know, they were saying it was a new African thing because it's a new time in Africa where they got the independence. So those terms being utilized as well. So, you know, now when you go on to the New African Independent Movement, going to our fight for land and independence, we become criminalized because of that. And as soon as the brothers behind enemy lines started talking about those things, you know, they were seeing that same stipulation, you know.
But then you go right here when you look at the forefathers of the New African Independence Movement right here in this country. Davy Walker, Martin Delaney, Gabriel Prosper,
exactly.
Demar Bussy, Gabriel Henry Garnett, Tunis Campbell. You can look at the forefathers from the 1800s that declare independence, that fought for independence on these territories. You know what I'm saying? So we have a historical line. And check this out. We challenged this in court multiple times. We was getting our butt whooped multiple times. It don't make no difference how much information we provide. But later, like I say, about from 2005 to 2010, we won at least 10 different major federal lawsuits across the board on that very issue. Even the judge was saying that there's a history, even before the existence of the guerrilla movement, that NORN existed, that the New African Independence Movement existed. There's no way they could have created that. There was no way they could have developed NORN because it already was in use even before their existence. And what they try to do is say that we created that. We created that, and by creating that, we reduce it to prison gang politics, and you can penalize people for participating in prison gang politics. Our whole issue, too, is this, and this is the part of the movement we're at. It's like each state, man, and each prison at different levels of their movement, right? And this is one thing I try to explain to some of the brothers, right? You had a state in your state where we was at back in the 80s and 90s already. You can't expect us to turn back, come to your age, where we had to deal with where we at right now. One of our fights that took damn near 50 years was to get out of isolation. And see, like in California now, because of that fight, you cannot keep a person in long-term isolation no more. The most that person can do is 5 years. The most. And that got to be a serious offense. Before that, they give you an indeterminate sentence. I say that I'm a New African guerrilla now, and they can't take me to the hole. Prior to the changes, they can take you to isolation and keep you there for saying that. What you can get now in solitary confinement isolation, you couldn't get it at the time. You can have typewriters now. There's other stuff you can have now while you're in isolation. You see what I'm saying? So we won that part of the battle. The next part of the battle for our state, for in terms of our New African collective, is to get out of prison now. Because many of us already been in prison over 40 years, some over 30 years. So that's where we at now as a New African collective, you know. But at the same time, we're not going to allow these folks to get away with what they did to us. That's why it's important. The Restitution Now campaign is very important. Because what we're saying, you're not getting away from it. Even though you had a handful of brothers that got out after serving 40 to 50-something years, you owe them. In our class action lawsuit, even a judge acknowledged that we never should have been in isolation. They agreed with us. That's why they was forced to let us out. You was not exonerated. You was forced to settle out of court. By letting us out the hole after 30, 40, 50 years doesn't change nothing. You know? It's like when we got, just like, check this out. When I first got out of isolation, I'm in general population. The first day we get out, they take the restraints off you. You know, while you're in isolation, you're always in constant restraint while you're moving. They took the restraint off you, right? So when they let us out, we was at R&R, come to these units, we can walk on our own without the restraints, right? I'm walking with my hands behind my back. Like I still got restraints on. And one of the pigs said, hey, you don't need to walk like that, man. You ain't got no restraints on. I haven't paid him no mind, you know, because I'm in the zone, right? But the point I'm making is that there's still lingering effects on all of us that spend all that time.
Yeah, the condition.
You have experts who say that spending 1 year in isolation or solitary confinement, you know what I'm saying, can have an impact on you. You can get post-traumatic stress disorder just for 1 year. 5 years, because they say 1 year you get symptoms. 5 years is set in. These are coming from experts, especially military experts. They saying this, the psychologists that are in the military forces, they saying this. Now, how about those of us who did 20, 30, 40, 50 years in isolation? Then you're going to just release us in general population and tell us to start all over again, as if that didn't happen. We want you to go to school. We want you to get in these programs. All of us are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. But now you're going to treat like you treat everybody else and forget about what you've done to us. And that's what they've done. And they're getting away with it. You know, we are fighting to make sure that they don't get away with it, and they pay for what they've done to us. You know, like I said, as you know already, we have a comrade that got out, he did almost 54 years. Should have been out 30, 40 years ago. He went out at 7 to life. And he did almost 54 years. What the hell is that? Then we got a brother that just got out doing 50 years. And all them comrades that got out in this last 3 years, they're all done over 45 years.
That's ugly, man. They did more time. They did more time I've been living physically on this planet.
Yeah. Two comrades. Let me correct this. Two comrades. Let me correct this real quick. Two of the comrades did 40. One did 41, and then the other one did 43. The rest did over 45. You know, but all of them did over 40. Some did 50 and up illegally. They've been held. Then they get out there, they got to struggle to readjust, and the government think they got away with it. I mean, for right now, they is, because ain't nobody else doing nothing but us. We got a few supporters on the streets that's part of this campaign. But outside of that, there's nothing. You know, and this one of the issues here is that who do we blame for that? We're going to blame. So this is what some activists want to do. Blame the white man. Blame the government for that. I'm going to blame the government because you won't get your ass up and do whatever's necessary. I'm gonna blame the government for that. I'm gonna blame the government for participating and engaged in this struggle. I'm gonna blame the government for that.
It's all about our accountability. We got to be accountable for our own victories and our own defeats. We got to be accountable for that. You know, that's the only way we're gonna have in the movement. We take accountability for things to make things happen the way they need to be happening. Or people just, you know, people take out their role and do the work, you know, period. You know, all this stuff is, a lot of the stuff time we see all this, people want to be famous and people want to be celebrities and people want to be, you know, all this other old stuff, man. That doesn't make sense, you know, because people are dying, people are never getting out, and, you know what I'm saying, people's families being destroyed, and, you know, it's a lot of conditions in regard to the situation, man, that affect everybody, you know. Mass incarceration, the biggest bid on the planet Earth, which is a multi-billionaire corporation that invested by imperialists and capitalists all over the world, right? Because it's legal through the 13th Amendment, you know. So this has an effect on everybody, not just the people locked up, you know, not just the families that are associated with it.
And then you look at, like, Comrade Mume. They let him out at a stage where he know he had, like, cancer, and if he would have got out when he supposed to get out, that issue would have been addressed. Comrade Mata, he died out there. You didn't even go back to Comrade Merlin Buck. They knew she had cancer in stage 4. But let's release you now. Comrade Russell Schultz, the same way. This is not an accident. That's what people understand. When they do release you, you are suffering from some form of ill mental health that they perpetuated and facilitated while you was in their so-called care. Oh, we'll let him out now because he probably got a year to 2 years to live anyway.
Yeah.
You know? And again, they're going to do what you allow them to do. It's that simple. It's not just about individuals. Because what you do for us or them, it serves all of our purposes. Because it's part of the struggle. And a lot of our people don't see that. I mean, we make it easier for the oppressors to oppress us by what we do or don't do. You have people in the movement right now always, they saying the same thing. The government is government, okay, the government, just like, again, I know people get tired of me saying this, but I'm going to keep on saying it until it changes. When you look at Hurricane Katrina, you have all these activists come out talking about the government. Wait a minute. You said that before the Hurricane Katrina. So you knew that the government was full of shit, that you knew the government was our enemy. Now you criticize them for doing exactly what you said they would do before Hurricane Katrina? What is your excuse now? We know that this is an enemy government. We know why they didn't help us, why you didn't help us. Because your little speeches and words didn't stop our babies from floating face down, ass up in this polluted water. Why you didn't help us. You're supposed to be the revolution. You're supposed to be the frontline responder. But you wasn't there. You was talking. But even to this day, we're almost, 18, 19 years removed from Hurricane Katrina, and we're still not prepared for it. And I use this as an analogy here because it goes back to, look at Alabama right now. You know, look how many people in the last 2 years, close to almost 200 people died. I'm not even talking about the ones that got killed. I'm talking about the ones that died because of health issues that could have been saved in the state of Alabama. Close to 200. You would think that'd be enough to arouse our people. No. But, let's blame the government. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
No doubt. Point yourself, Conrad. Open line for a couple of callers, right? You know, at this time, I have a caller from 678-368. You have any questions, comments, statements, or announcements, please do so at this time. 678-368. Your line is open. Go ahead.
Frolinan, Black Power, my brother Abdul. How are you? How are you doing, my brother?
I'm good.
Good to hear your voice. It's really good to hear your voice. My brother Bomani, I know you're doing good. Yeah.
No doubt, yeah. Mama Pearl.
Yeah.
Ancient newcomer.
Yeah. It's me. Yeah. They done kicked up the dust, you know, and I'm getting activated again. I see a lot of things are going on. I find it very interesting that the masses of our people, they are just in a nonchalant type of attitude. You know, I speak to a lot of people like, hey, man, what y'all think what's going on with, Governor DeSantis, trying to block well, they're going to do what they're going to do. And this is basically what I'm getting from everybody. And I'm like, what the hell? What is going on? We got, Brother Crump. Yeah, I know Brother Crump. That's my brother. He's always there, but he needs us behind him too, And, so this is where I come in with the music, and I'm constantly pounding that because we got to shake something up in our people. And I know, like you say, these devils, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They are not immune from using these poison gases and all of these different things to wipe the memory of people. And apparently they're doing that again, because for these people to be walking around when there's fire all around and they're nonchalant, something, is going on behind the scene that these devils are doing again. And they will do any and everything. They've done it before, and I believe they're doing it again. Something is going on, too nonchalant. We're screaming and hollering, but they're just so nonchalant. And I know there's a lot of things we have to do, get the masses together. We still have to do the plebiscite. And yeah, we have to do something. You keep screaming and hollering, but they're not listening. They're listening, but they're not being activated because something else has got a hold of them. And
what you're saying, they're whooping the shit out of it. They're whooping their ass. But you look at the social media. You look at the so-called fake-ass education system. This is where they reorientate and indoctrinating our people.
Yeah.
This is the main platform they use to facilitate that thought process. Like everything is cool. We just have little problems over here, little problems over there. And a lot of our people talk their talk, but they're afraid of this government. They're afraid of this system of oppression.
But I'm thinking that they're using some kind of mind control. I know they've done that before. They poisoned the water. They're doing something. But we can snap our people out of it. We have to let them know the desperate situation that they're in, because there's no way you can be walking around with all this fire and smoke going on, and you're like, oh, well, hey, well, whatever. Something else is going on, and we have to break that. These devils are doing something to the masses.
No doubt.
I'm even watching this go happening, around me immediately as well. It's like everybody is like, well, hey, whatever. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've done this before. They're doing everything now. It's all about their genetic survival, and they're doing everything.
Mama Pearl, one thing, and what you said, absolutely right. But one thing I don't like doing is exonerating our people from any responsibility. Because
absolutely not.
What the oppressors do is based on what we don't do. You see what I'm saying? It's enough of us that know the right thing to do the right thing, right? And when we provide, I'm not saying you, but when you have a lot of activists out there that provide the people excuses, they hide behind them excuses. When they feel and believe that they have no responsibility in this matter, they sit back and say, why? I ain't got no responsibility with that. That ain't got nothing to do with me. That was an activist. It has a lot to do with you. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I don't do that. Nah, you get your ass up and do something, man. This is about what we don't do. You can't blame. They doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be neutralizing us, brainwashing us, killing us, destroying us.
Absolutely.
That's what they're supposed to be doing.
That's
We're not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
That's right, and they are doing it. And we have got to come together and mobilize and just stop this. I can't understand how we have gotten it. We've got it stamped in our head because we see a uniform. We have got to stop and let these people beat us to death, knowing that if anyone is going to harm you, they are operating outside of the law. Take their asses out and we'll deal with the consequences later. They're going to put you in jail anyway. So go to jail with taking their asses out. I mean, someone mess with your child or your family member, these cops are crooked. Man, dude, they got to go home. I've been there. I had to do this, Brother Abdul. I had to do this. I don't talk about it, but I had to do it. I followed them home.
My prayer, you don't pull out that big stick again, eh?
Always keep it. I always keep it.
Stick bigger than you.
Keep it with me all the time.
Yeah.
I have my staff. It's a staff. I keep it with me all the time. Everybody walking with a staff now. Oh yeah.
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 See, and this why I was at a live about a month ago, about a month ago, about 3-4 weeks ago, right after that other brother Tyree Nicholas got killed, right? And this one sister, she's supposed to be an activist. She implied that the parents or black men should not come out the house by themselves after 8 o'clock.
Wow.
And that's what you say. So what you're saying is we should all stay hidden in our house like a bunch of runaway slaves, because if we get out there, we might get beaten or shot and killed. So I told the sister, okay, sister, check this out. But they can get beaten and they can get killed as well. What you mean? If we go out there the way we're supposed to go out there, that shit wouldn't happen.
Absolutely.
We're supposed to encourage our young people to stay at home when it's dark. Not just, she said,
right.
Black men, period. What
right. No, we got to start policing, you know, our community and our neighborhoods, and truly in a professional way, and introducing ourselves to these police officers, cruisers, and letting them know that they're not needed and are wanted in our community. And if something goes, you know, we have to get a relationship with them. We have to be professional, eye on eye. Okay, I see what you're doing, but we're here. If we need you and we don't have the backup, we'll call you. But let me tell you, if you do come in our community and you hurt one of ours,
let me say this here, Mama Pearl. Let me say this here, right? I'm just saying from our perspective, the guerrilla perspective, we ain't going to never call them pigs. We ain't going to never work with them pigs. They can die and breathe there. We would never touch them, talk to them, nothing. We let it be known this is our community. We're going to police our community. Get the fuck up out of here. You know, you go back up. Get the fuck out of here. We catch your ass. You committing a crime. You invading space that don't belong to you. You invade our territory. You defend our territory. Simple as that. We ain't got nothing to say.
Domestic terrorism.
Exactly.
Domestic terrorism. Get the domestic terrorists out the neighborhood.
Exactly.
You know?
But you know what, I'm hearing from so many people, you know, like the situation that was happening in Alabama and so many places, you know, sisters are they're calling me, Mama, they thinking I'm a Black Panther. And I keep telling them I'm not a Black Panther, y'all. Mama, bro, where they at? We need them in the community again. I'm like, look at here. You know, we're going to have to get this right. We have to organize. There should be some place for you all to go in the community when something is going on. You know, so.
You should have told them free land, Mama Perry. You should have told them we need to work to free their land.
Well, I'm telling them that. I'm telling them that too. But you know, hey, you know, these people in the struggle. You know, I'm working on bringing back Black power. You know. That's what Black power is all about, soul power, you know, and we got to put soul back in our people.
Yeah.
Put the soul back in our people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, if we look at our people they don't heard all the philosophy, all the ideology, they don't heard all the rhetoric.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
The big thing for our people to really realize is we got to show them by our work and effort. We got to give them something tangible. Like they can touch it, taste it, smell it, or see it, then they know it's real. If we talking about we don't have no food, the food shortage, we create a garden, we buy a farm, we get land, we get them food, we create a grocery store, then they know it's real. If we talk about education and we create a school, whatever, you know, we showing them something tangible. We create a community center, we create a library. Wherever we create, we got to show them that it's still, with the resistance still there, the mind is still there. We got to show them by our ways and actions. You know, that do our work. A lot of the talking, they ain't gonna never get it because they hear it all the time. You know.
And we got to show them what self-government look like. We got to show them this is what self-government looks like. Create our own institutions in service of our people. This is what it looks like. We can't just talk about self-government. We got to show them by developing these community-based institutions and serving their needs. This is what self-government looks like.
And that's a part of the government business, because you're supposed to have representatives in each of these communities, you know, supposed to be the voice of the community, knowing what the community want, and then the government is supposed to get together to try to pull all these things together in the community so that everyone can work on that, know what the community needs, and get it there. But, that's what the representatives are supposed to be doing. You know, getting together, talking with the community, having meetings, you know, letting the community get their voices out, writing down what the community is actually looking for, because what works in one community may not be what drives the other community. That's what the representatives are supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
And you know, and with the representative, there has to be some kind of, you know, military policing in these different communities that work together in tandem, you know. So
yeah,
no doubt.
One of the things I trip on is doing this 7 day of Kwanzaa, when you got you know, collective work responsibility. we got millions and millions of people in this country that embrace Kwanzaa. They embrace collective work responsibility, cooperative economics, unity, self-determination in them 7 days. After 7 days over, they full of shit. Because if you really embrace, if we had 10, 15 million people that support unity, umoja, we wouldn't be in the position we're in now. If we had the same 10, 15 million of our people support Kwanzaa, if they believe in cooperative economics, we will have more people's bank serving our communities. If they believe in collective work responsibility, they'd be out there in the community working. But no, it's a holiday, 7 days of self-gratification, pat yourself in the ass, and the 8th day you go back to being a capitalist, individualistic, and whatever the hell you may be. So don't see me that call this shit. Because those principles you're talking about, those principles you're talking about is something that we live and breathe every goddamn day, not no 7 days. If you really believe in that, you got 20, 30 million of our people that support Kwanzaa, but yet after the 7 days, where the fuck they at then? If you really believe in those 7 principles, where the hell you at? Cooperative economics, where's your money? Where your economics at? Collective work I don't see your ass in the community working.
Kuchakalia. Kuchakalia is every day.
Every day.
Right.
And
well, we got to be
those
voices. We got to be those voices again in the community. We got to be those strong voices like they were, you know, back in the day, the 60s and the 70s. You know, especially when the young people came through and they had those strong voices. We got to be those voices in every neighborhood where they can come out collectively.
Part of that, Mama Fair. You know, the thing that I don't realize, like I was just saying that then, we about us knowing these things, right? That make us social scientists. You know, so we have people have social ills and social problems. So we got to be the ones who derive the solutions to alleviate these particular illnesses that they have, right? So we got to actually do the work. You know, the thing about it, the more work we do, the more people are gonna see it. When people a lot of times our people don't have the opportunity, right? Like right now, we propagate information. Okay, so we taking advantage of this social media aspect, control the narrative, putting the information out so people can get an understanding and they can see that from different perspectives, so they can have different choices. And then once we start seeing things on a physical level, people can actually get involved with it or not get involved with it, but they're gonna start seeing they see the results from it, right? So I would think I would got to be a plan of action. Like we all had all the blueprints in history. We had like I do say we had Denmark versus Gabriel Praza, Tunis Campbell, you know what I'm saying? We had Amara Dell, George, we had all these models, right? Queen Mother Moore, we had all these models. So we got to be able to use these models from a scientific perspective and critique what they said and what they did and learn from their particular mistakes.
That's right.
And then apply it to our current condition right now, because all our conditions are different. Like you said, in every neighborhood, we have some of the same problems. But in every neighborhood, some of the problems are going to be different in regards to what's the most severe. So it's about getting people, organizing people together and doing certain things to make things alleviate the situation, right? If we talking about nation building, we got to show them what it means. We talking about black power, we got to show them what it means. We talking about self-determination. What are we talking about? We got to show them what it means by ways and actions. You know, the rhetoric be cool and the philosophy and the ideology, you know, and the 12-hour lecture, they be cool sometimes, but when people are hungry, when the police hit people across the head and people getting beat to death, and it's like our children and women and old men getting snatched up, taking their bodies and shit, you know, we got to do something about all this stuff, you know. We got to go and put it in effect.
This is true. and in order to do something about all that, we have to constantly be pulling in, you know, new members, more members, you know, and getting them educated and putting them in position, you know, giving them their position that they need to do, because we constantly need hands to help build this thing.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I'm saying. This is where the representatives come in. If we're going to work it through using our government, you know, the new African PGRNA government, we have to get representatives to fill these there should be many representatives within the government to fill all, because the government is not going to work right without these representatives knowing, letting the community know about the government, getting them involved with government so that they can vote, so that the more who knows about the government, now we can get our plebiscite. The more representatives that we have filling up these communities, you know, having their meetings, you know, because they doing their working autonomously because they all working differently, all have their own swag in their community, but it's imperative that we get the representatives in those communities.
Ted is our mama Ayo.
Yeah.
You know, I'm listening with you. I'm on Pearl. I'm listening. I'm on Pearl. I'm listening what you say. I'm on Pearl. Now, you know, every person who's a constitutional average citizen, right, is a representative of the movement, right? You don't necessarily got to have a position. Now, in our district, John McClark town, right, we don't have no district rep, right, but about the ministry information. But we are working on freeing the land. We own an institution in our community. We own an institution. Right. We working it. We got programs. Right. We being effective program. We doing the work that's necessary. We actually promoting that aspect independent, and we building the ideological school. We doing all these things, right? Without having a representative, we doing this stuff because we know it's our duty to free the land through our ways of action. When they say raise your hand, free the land, that means do the work, you know. Right.
But we're also building the government. So without a representative, how are we getting people to vote and be a part of the government?
Let me say this here, right? We both have an internal and external struggle taking place. So I'm saying, in order to be an effective government, you have to deal with those contradictions that exist in the government. So I'm saying, sometimes your own people hold you back. So we have to address those internal contradictions. It's always been that way. You go back 100, 200 years. It's always been those internal contradictions that stand in our way. So I'm saying, when we deal with the PG, the provision of government, it's dealing with these internal contradictions that are designed to stagnate our growth and development. They are designed to undermine what is being done. You see what I'm saying? So that has to be addressed. So I'm just saying, one have to consider those things as well, right? But one thing people need to understand, our first stage, the first stage of our battle is in the minds of our people. It's always been that. That's not no doubt. The minds of our people, that's where we had to break the first shackles from.
That's right. You have to heal the disease and sickness in the minds of our people. And I'm with you with that cleaning up house because, you know, it's obvious, you know, and I've been doing a lot of meditating on this. It's like, gee whiz, all these years, you know, we've been fighting in the struggle, trying to get these things done. But there's no reason why we should not have, you know, this. And there's so many people who comes inside of the revolution and leads because there's something in the revolution that is kicking people out. And we need to look at that. There's something on the inside. There's the monsters on the inside because there are too many people, and I do know them. They're warriors and soldiers and young, proud men and women who would love to get down. But there's something going on in their inside. So, you know, and you're absolutely correct. And I can write a whole Bible on the situation. You know, and it's a shame. I know too many. You know, and then they have young men come to me and say, well, you know, if I wanted to join a gang, I would have gotten down with a gang.
Get down with a gang.
Yeah, you know, I mean, because it was so rough, the treachery and the deceit within inside of the revolution. It was just, it's like, wow, I could have just joined a gang if I wanted to get down like that.
Yeah, that's true too. But see, again, and I think it's important too to emphasize the fact that the first stage of liberation is in liberation of the minds of our people. Yeah. That's the first stage. Because how they think is how they're going to respond and act. You know, and a lot of movements don't understand that because when they go to the community, they don't realize they're talking to the walking dead. Yeah. You got to have what it takes to awaken that walking dead. Because if you ain't have no clue that you're talking to The Walking Dead is not going to be receptive to what you're talking about.
No doubt.
When we're talking about the dumb, deaf, and blind, I'm not hearing you, I'm not seeing you, and I can't speak to you if I can't hear and see you. So the thing is, how do you get them to hear us? Because once they hear us, they can see us. Once they see us, they can speak to us. So I'm saying it's important to have a conscious and functional understanding of the fact that we're at war with the minds of our people. To win their minds over.
We're at war with the minds of our people. And we have war with people from people that look like us, but they're not us.
Yeah, because right now the government got their mind. The oppressor got their mind. We don't.
Yes. Yes, and they have their mind doing some underhanded things. I'm telling you that the water, we know that, this here government marijuana that's effeminizing our men, you know, they're doing some things, you know. I also believe that they've been putting, you know, different things in the air, you know.
But see, again, and Mama Pearl, again, ultimately, we are responsible for how we respond to it.
You're damn right. You're damn right.
They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Poison our water.
No doubt.
They poison our food. And then this, check it out. Let me say this here. Like when they talk about the feminization of
black, we're doing that shit since slavery.
Hey, look, listen. What I'm saying is this here. We have a lot of people say these things, right, about what they're doing. I sat back. I watched these commercials. I intentionally watched these commercials for a whole month. Right. Me and my comrade Schema, we intentionally watched this commercial. 99% of the time, when they show a black family as a white man and a sister, nobody's saying nothing about that. That is part of removing the black man from the family.
Something about it.
No, I'm not talking about you, Mama Pearl. I'm not talking about you. Let me say, I'm not talking about you, Mama Pearl. Nah, come on, Mama, stop that. What I'm saying is general.
I was heated. I was livid.
This is what I'm saying. The people keep I want the people to hear me on this. What I'm saying is this here. I already know. I ain't talking about you, Mama Pearl. What I'm saying is this here. They do this daily. Every major corporation and company, when they speak about the black family, they're not showing the black family. They're showing the white man in place of the black man over and over again. Or they're showing two gay men over and over again. And people don't get what's being done. They implanting this idea that the black man is obsolete. But the black man is not saying nothing about, for the most part, they're not saying nothing about this. We should boycott every corporation that play that game. Because it's by design. It's not an accident. So what I'm saying is all those groups and institutions that's trying to feminize the black man, trying to eliminate the black man from the black family, instead of saying, okay, this is what they're doing. I'm talking about my people, our people now. We have to do something about that. So if you got a corporation or business that's using that type of commercial promotion, then they must be boycotted. The hell with you, ain't buying your product. Put a black family up there. Put a black woman and black man together. Why every time we turn around and watch all your commercials, there's a white man, and this one you know is delivered because you can't name one company that don't do it. You cannot name one company that don't do that.
That's right. This is all about their genetic survival. It's all about that, you know. And I knew for a long time, gee whiz, these people have to plaster their face and their image everywhere. That must be, man. They have just no self-esteem or no belief in themselves. I mean, just their pride is just so low, you know. They have to constantly be looking at this because it's fake and it's false. So,
check it out. See, what they're doing is by design. In order to neutralize the race, what I'm saying is not so much about a lack of pride. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. How do you neutralize an entire race of people? Everything you see are methods of operation specifically designed to neutralize us. To neutralize the black men, the black women, the black youth, the black
they know
community.
that they're inferior. Pride was probably the wrong word, but they know that they're inferior. So they have to constantly be promoting and encouraging themselves and putting us down. Of course, it's by design. They know exactly what they're doing. It has been working. They have done some horrible things. And
let me say this, hey, Bomani.
Yes, sir, Conrad.
All right. Check this out, man. one of the things I think what people need to understand, this is what they need to understand. I'm not tripping on what they're doing. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's who they are. That's who they are. I'm tripping on why we're not responding the way we're responding.
Why
they're
we're
doing
not
exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And then, let me say this here. And the point I'm making is this here, right? When I talk to some of the comrades in here and they make statements like, man, them folks are stupid. I said, wait a minute. If they're stupid, what that makes you then? Because they're oppressing you. They're exploiting you. They're controlling you. So you mean to tell me a stupid, retarded person is controlling you? No. Identify your enemy. Like they said, know thyself and know thy enemy. Identify your enemy. He ain't stupid. He ain't stupid. He's not illiterate. He's a sophisticated scientific mind thinker. That's why he's in charge. In order for us to be effective, we have to respond accordingly. Understand the importance of being scientific. Understand the importance of utilizing our brain, the most powerful weapon on the planet. Because that's what they're doing. You see what I'm saying? Identify the characters of your enemies. So I'm saying we always have the tendency to speak to the weakness of our people, not their strength. I tell the brothers and sisters that we have the same power, the same intellectual power to break these motherfuckers back. We have the same power to have our own, to have our own institutions, to have our own nation. We have that same power, but we have to work. We have to put boots on the ground. We have to do what is necessary to get it done. But again, like I said, man, it's the mind of our people that we have to deal with. Because if we don't win that, your actions is determined by the way you think. You think like a slave, you won't act like a slave. You think like you defeated, you won't act like you didn't being defeated. Simple as that.
Absolutely. And, we've got to have more people with the courage to speak up to our people, No doubt. Just got to speak up, and that's what they hear. Everybody needs it. It's just like a code. Everyone's looking for a code word, the key, and they won't hear it if no one's speaking on it, How can you hear without a teacher? And how can you teach without being a witness? We know what's going on. So we've got to be heard, even more so.
And the thing, it's like we say, you study to know to teach to build to win.
That's right, absolutely.
Yes, sir. That's the only way.
WWW, we will win.
No, ain't no question about that. And then we have to understand. We understand that's not going to happen in our time. It's our responsibility to lay down the blueprint. It's our responsibility to build a foundation so generations to come have a foundation to fight from. We can't define what is freedom for them because 100 years from now, the freedom will look differently. What we can do is better arm them with everything they need to make that decision. And that's
everything
our goal,
they need to make sure that they continuously know our story because they're trying to white it out. So we gotta preserve our literature and our legacy and our heritage, And I'm excited about the off school teaching. They don't want because they're afraid. I mean, it's amazing. You have done so much, and the hindering of one people will crush everything that you have done. Just teaching truth about that piece of history that you try to pull out will just crush and collapse your whole universe. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. And again, like I said, what we have to do too, I mean, my thing is, again, they're going to always be our missing role. They do exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're the oppressor. They're the fascists. They're the colonialists. They're the racists. And when I use the colonialists, when I use other terms, that includes the Negroes and other sellouts as part of this government, right? So it's not just about race, you know what I'm saying? So my whole thing is that, man, I can sit there all day and tell our community this is what they're doing. And most of them will look at me like, okay, that's it. We have to focus on them. We have to focus on our community and talk to them.
Yeah.
And until we do that, nothing's going to change because the government going to do what they do. All you have to do is this here. Every time we demonstrate after they kill one, even in the process of demonstration, they just kill another brother or sister somewhere in the country. Don't mean nothing.
Absolutely. I mean, when they did this huge thing with the the crackdown on drugs when they gave you damn near life for having crack, and for people who use cocaine they got probation.
Yeah.
And basically all the white executives, because I know all the executives who worked in corporate, they were all using cocaine, so they got probation. But the young kids, who were selling crack, they got, a minimum of 5 years automatically, knowing that they're black and brown-skinned kids, brothers and sisters who's selling crack.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that alone, should just look at that and weigh that, crack, a small piece of crack, you get minimum 5 years, and cocaine, you get probation. Makes no sense. But they do what they want to do.
But again, that's by design. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, no, it won't make no sense, but it makes sense to them because that's by design. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
To neutralize our people through mass incarceration. So I'm saying they
got away with it.
Ain't getting away with
it.
Yeah, but again, we got to go back again to what do we do in response to this? We have to develop our own community-based drug rehab programs. We have to create our own drug rehab educational process. We have to do these things in response to that. We have to develop different methods in institutions. I don't know all that can be done, but I know if we put our minds together, many of our people can develop the proper strategy to neutralize that process. We have to do that. We have to analyze and assess the strengths and weaknesses of our enemies and respond accordingly, right? They doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. We're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Yes, they did that and got away with it because we allowed them to get away with it.
Yeah, the answer to everything that we're talking about has always been ourselves, man. So we are a greater resource. So we are a greater resource when we actually utilize it. Our unity is our greater power, man. So it's all on us. What we're gonna do to defend ourselves, what we're gonna do, protect ourselves, what we're gonna do, educate. It's all on us. You can't blame the state. You can't blame the oppressor. We can't blame the American academic system. We gotta blame ourselves for the way we respond to it and the way it affects us. And the way we deal with it. We gotta blame ourselves, man. Period, man. We gotta do the work.
It's like a cop slapped me and kicked me in my ass. I'm gonna say, man, why you do that for? No, I'm not gonna do that. Oh, wait till it's over with. I'm gonna file a lawsuit to the very system that's oppressing me. Let me file a lawsuit in your court about what this clown did to me. No, I'm gonna be in your court system. I'm gonna be in your court system charged. That's what's gonna happen. So I'm just saying, man, we are responsible. Bottom line, that's what's not being taught to our people. We are responsible. Bottom line, they doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're the enemy of our people. They're the enemy of liberation. They're the enemy of humanity. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm not gonna sit here. No, you doing what you be. We don't not doing what we're doing. At least they doing what they're doing. They're winning. And that's one of the things we mess up on. We focus so much trying to rationalize what they're doing. No, they doing this shit. They doing this shit. They doing this shit.
Points right there, I do. I think we got another caller. Hold on, let me see. We're gonna open the line. We got a caller 901-609. If any question, comment, statement, now please do it at the time. 901-609. Your line is open. Go ahead.
Hey there, hey, Frolinan, how y'all doing? I just got where I can stop and speak. I'm on the go, but I am listening in, but I had to stop and speak. How y'all doing tonight? Great show. Everything been good.
Doing well.
I ain't with no. Hey, check it out. All you gotta do, tell me when and where. Just tell me when.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna hit you up now.
Tell me when. I told you that already. Tell me when you want to do this. Tell me when. And if no pigs around, I got you. But I'm saying, no, I'm serious. Tell me when you want to do this.
And how you come up beating up my Conrad?
All right, I got you.
I'm gonna do it. Tell me when.
And how you beating up my Conrad now? How you beating up my Conrad now?
I'll be there. Don't be trip. I got you. I ain't forgot about you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let y'all beat my Conrad up now.
definitely. All right, y'all keep it up. Keep up the great work. I love y'all.
Right.
Oh, I love you too, sir. No doubt. Free the line.
See, one thing we have to do, right, comrades, like, you have a lot of people within the struggle, especially community activists. They focus more time on what the enemy is doing opposed to how we're responding to it, right? This force, and I'm not just talking about the girl, I'm talking about the whole entire force behind this war against our people, right? And that, you got a lot of coons in there, so you don't exclude them. So it's more than just a race thing. You know what I'm saying? They've utilized and recruited coons to enforce. It's like that buffer zone. Their first line response is a bunch of coons like the NWCP and others, right? But the bottom line is it ultimately fall back on us, period. No matter what. You can sit all day and say, yeah, that institution is racist. Okay. How many times are you going to say that? It's racist and it's doing what it's doing. Now what? This is a fascist state. This is a pig state.
We got to create our own. We got to create our own institution.
Yeah. But the thing is, how do you? I mean, and that's true, right? That's one of the things that we have to do. But in the meantime, in that process, how do you resist that? How do you show the people that we have to resist this? So I'm saying, building that is the ultimate goal. But in the meantime, it's gonna take years to build that. So what do we do in the meantime to resist that, to discourage them, right? And again, I mean, we had to come together, create our own revolutionary think tanks and develop these plans, right? But we focus too much attention on what they're doing. Now, we know what they're doing. Yes, you take that, you analyze, you assess the strengths and weaknesses, share that information with the people, but we must always be solution-oriented. How can I stop them from shooting our people in the middle of the street? How can I stop them from beating on our people, disrespecting our people? How can I stop them from miseducating our people? How can I stop them from killing us, destroying us, mentally, culturally, socially? That's the question we need to be asking. That's the solution-oriented process. If you're not thinking about solutions, you're not going to never solve a problem. But we always focus and get drowned in the oceans of problems opposed to how can I learn how to swim up out of this shit? How can I develop a life raft or something to save my people? We get so caught up in what them clowns are doing, and they're doing it good. You can't call them, if you call them stupid, that make you what? You see, and that's another thing I think people need to understand. When you identify or misidentify your opposition, you fucked up. Because there's nothing stupid about this opposition.
Yeah, they real.
So what looks stupid to you is not stupid to them because it's working.
They handling it big.
And I'm saying they've been in power over 500 years, damn near. You understand me? And then when I told one brother this, and one brother said, "Well, they not all that, Abdul. I said, "What you doing? What you doing? You got blood in your hand? What the hell you doing? Just talking? Keyboard revolution? What you doing?" The point I'm making is this here. The point I'm making is this: you assess the strengths and weaknesses of your opposition. United States don't give a damn about Russia, but they know Russia has the means to destroy it. Well, Russia don't give a damn about the United States, but they have the means to destroy Russia. They understand that. So by acknowledging the fact that Russia or United States or China have the means to destroy one another, and acknowledge that doesn't mean, oh, well, we're scared of them. That's like if you if you're in battle, you have to identify the strength and the weakness of your enemy. You have to know, okay, I can go to Iraq. I know they don't have a strong air force. I can control the land by the air force because you made that assessment of their weak and strength. So I'm saying when Russia look at the United States look at Russia or China or North Korea, they have to assess each other based on the material factors on the ground. No matter what we say about the United States, Russia, China, those are some powerful countries. Simple as that. That's not saying you're scared of them.
Yeah.
We have to develop a plan to beat them. That's what it's saying. Because oftentimes when you're talking about, well, man, the same person that said, man, they ain't shit, then what you doing then? What you doing? You got blood on your hand? I'm not talking about no goddamn keyboard. Got blisters for pushing them buttons. They ain't talking about that. They shut the hell up.
So they get blisters from pushing the gear?
Yeah.
Hey, y'all try.
The person that talk about blood the most is the person that don't have it.
Yeah, bliss from the keyboard.
I'm not encouraging brothers and sisters out to go get your guns. Nah. You be a damn fool. You prepare yourself. You organize yourself. You defend yourself when necessary. Yeah.
And the thing regarding that gun thing, I always realize that you gotta be a book soldier before you be a foot soldier, right? You gotta have the information, the education behind how to utilize the gun. Just not just pick the guns and go to shoot, But
it's not just that. It's not just that. How do I initiate an armed struggle without preparing the community for that? Yeah. Because they don't come, and the people gonna suffer as a direct result. Like I was telling one brother about the insurrection, that if I launch some type of struggle and they cut the water off in that community, cut the power off that community, destroy the food source of that community, what you gonna do? What you gonna do now? The people gonna turn against your ass.
Yeah, exactly.
What you gonna do? We ain't got no water. Yeah. We ain't got no food. They put some type of laxative in the water. They put a laxative and a tranquilizer in the water. We all laid out in our kitchen, shitting in the sleep.
Yeah. That's a war tactic. That's a war tactic. Yeah. A lot of times when they started doing that, people started getting infiltrated and turning each other, started compromising.
Exactly. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is this here: you have a lot of these cats that be talking don't have a clue of what the government's going to respond to. They never did the homework. They did not assess the weakness and strength of the opposition. Just like that boy that was in Detroit talking about, we're going to take over Detroit in October. We already knew you full of shit. So you ain't did nothing to prepare the community for it. You ain't take shit over. We knew this, but you running your goddamn mouth. Because if you serious about doing this shit, you wouldn't be talking.
Nah.
You wouldn't be talking.
Especially we start talking about some acts of that magnitude, you definitely don't put it out there. You know what I'm saying? There's not nothing to announce. That's pure stupid.
And then you see what the P's doing. They didn't do nothing. They just looked down. Ah, man, sit down. We know everything you're doing. We know what you got. You ain't going to do nothing. You ain't going to lick a stamp. You ain't going to bust a grape. You never leave your front door if it was really about that. He posed no threat. They didn't even do nothing to him. They gave him a platform to talk that talk because it's in their best interest.
Yeah.
See, we so caught up in these egos. Check it out, man. Our focus is preparing and organizing our community, stabilizing our community. Understand me? So our community can prosper, but laying down the foundation for the future generation to build from. We get caught in all these ghost politics, all this, man, who sound the hardest, who sound the baddest, and most of the motherfuckers ain't never did nothing. Have you ever did something? One thing Qatar used to teach, don't do something, and he's speaking to leaders now, don't do something that you have never done before. And don't tell somebody to do something, don't tell nobody to do something that you have never done before. You see, and in this environment here, it was true. That's why you had a lot of comrades in leadership positions getting off first. Because now there's no question. So when comrades see you get off first, and then he turn around and say, man, it's your turn, bro. You ain't going to question that because you know he's there with you. Because he did this already multiple times.
No other fish.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you get these armchair revolutionaries or armchair guerrillas, put that way. They talk that talk about violence. But yet, where your medals? Where your shit at? I'm not going to never tell nobody. I'm going to prepare my community like the way you're supposed to. Prepare them. So whenever the time comes, they be ready. You see what I'm saying? And understand what you're up against. Understand what you're up against. It's not has nothing to do with fear and intimidation. Understand your enemy. Like they say, our ancestors, know thyself.
True indeed. You got to assess everything.
You see what I'm saying? And you have to, because your success and failure will be dependent on that assessment. You have to, and that's what I'm saying. We don't understand how important the brains is in this battle. This war we fighting is really against our own people. And we ain't ready to fight the war against them. It's getting our people to get off their ass and do something. Fight for your liberation. Fight for your people. Fight for what we call our community. It's really in our community, because everything in that community is owned by outsiders. They can evict every one of our ass for the most part. The food source in our community is owned by outsiders. the water source, the power source, and most of them homes and businesses is owned by house fighters. That's not our community. Let's make it our community. That can be done. And that's why I was kicking it with one of the comrades today. Matter of fact, he wrote a post, right? And all I did at the bottom of the post said, "We in trouble." And the sad thing about this, comrades, most of our people don't even realize how much trouble we're in. They sell these pipe dreams. We have to understand we're in trouble. And our people need to understand we're in trouble if we don't do nothing. A lone gunman can't do shit. That's self-gratification. We have to build our communities. We have to understand economics from a social standpoint. When we speak about corporate economics, we're talking about new African socialism. We ain't talking about Marxists and Lenin and all them other clowns.
Yeah.
We're talking about new African/African socialism. What does that mean? Corporate economics. Pooling our resources together in the service of our collective. Building our resources. Owning our homes. Owning our business. Developing our corporations in service of our people. Corporate economics. That's indications of who we are as a people. Not Marxists. Remember, they had to evolve and develop that. We grew up into that.
Yeah. No doubt.
It was part of the social structure in Africa thousands of years ago. So, I mean, you know, and again, we play, when we speak the way we speak in terms of we always blaming them, we also speak to the weakness of our people, telling them you have no responsibility in this. You don't need to respond. It's them. They got to change. Now, how in the hell I'm going to tell my enemy to change when their very survival depends on what they're doing to us?
Exactly.
Please change. Please change, Master Gilmore. Master Gilmore, I'm waiting for you to change.
Yeah.
You let like Richard Preston, you land on Mr. Gilmore property now, you're in trouble. So that alien land the ship on Mr. Gilmore property.
Yeah.
And they're marching now picking cotton. He's on the plantation. Master Gilmore broke him a marching slave. I mean, you know, it's like, hey, man. And that's why I say we're in trouble, because we don't get it, man. It's nothing going to change until we change. We can throw rocks at that house every day, all day. They don't give a damn. Okay, I'm a what? I'm a fascist? Okay. I'm a what? A white supremacist, a racist, a capitalist? Now I'm talking about the coons too. I'm a neo-colonialist? Okay, now what? Now that you identify who I am, now what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Go back home and sit on your ass and let me continue to exploit and beat your ass.
Right.
So there's nothing you're going to stop me, because because you identify them as if that's something. I'm not hiding. We're out in the hood right now, beating and torturing your people every day. We out there right now in the business exploiting your people, not hiring your people, denying your people loans and all that. We whooping your ass every day, so it's not like we hiding. So by you telling other people that, oh, yeah, man, we that. Yes, we all that. What you say we are. Now what? Where does the solution, where does the response come from now? Yeah, we control the food source. Yes, we put shit in your water, your food, and everything. You goddamn right. Now what? 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 It's like, you know, they slap the shit out of him and look at us and now what you going to do? You stand there rubbing your face talking about, ouch. What you going to do to prevent me from slapping your face again?
No doubt.
Telling mom and daddy I'll slap you don't mean shit. I'm gonna slap them next.
No doubt. All right, pardon yourself, Bob. We got 5 minutes left, man. You know, go and get your final thoughts before we close out, man.
Check this out. The struggle within the prison slave complex is the same struggle out there. It's just as important. One thing we used to explain to a lot of people, and we still do, that the majority of these brothers and sisters are getting out. How they impact the community will determine what we're doing here. This is important as the George Jackson University as well as the Marcus Garvey Study Group. Our goal here is to transform that criminal mind into a revolutionary mindset, or to a cultural mentality that's going to contribute toward the growth and development of our community and not facilitate its demise. That's in the best interest of all of us. but we can't do without your support. Lip service don't get the job done. We need your support to develop our university, to empower our university with the capacity to get the job done. Either they're going to parole to the streets or they're going to graduate from the university into the street. We want them to graduate from the GJU into the street because they're going to become